Have you ever become enthralled with the storyline of a threatening and mysterious fictional world, only to feel weighed down by its darkness? Of course, all this doom and gloom can quickly be offset by a well-timed quip from the party's resident jokester, a faceplant by the local klutz, or a wisecrack from the undisputed smart. These characters are known as the comic reliefs. And while he might lack the finessed tongue or slapstick antics of his fellow classmates, it is undeniable that one of Fire Emblem Three House's endearing comedians comes in the form of Raphael Kirsten. Don't know this big lug of love? Allow me to introduce you. Raphael is one of your character's potential students at Garreg Mach Monastery, serving his country of Leicester alongside of the chaotic ragtag class known as the Golden Deer. One look at Raphael lets you know that he acts as the muscle of the group. This guy's got a heart as big as his brawn, but lacks the brains to match. Few would be bothered by this, however, as the levity he brings to their rapidly darkening academy could outshine a Nosferatu. But our boy suffers from a classic symptom of comic relief syndrome: shallowness. What do we know as soon as we meet Raphael? He likes eating and training. What do we know about Raphael by the end of the game? He likes eating, training, and his sister, who has no bearing on the events of the game whatsoever, nor is she ever seen. It's a common misconception that comedic characters shouldn't be deep. But a character doesn't require tragedy to become multifaceted. Why don't we see about fleshing out this beefcake without dimming his natural light? Before we can buff him, we have to figure out what exactly is inhibiting him. Raphael's problems can be boiled down to two significant issues: an imbalanced personality and a lack of universal relevance. Problem number 1, personality. Where personality is concerned, envision a seesaw. One end of the saw holds positive traits, while the other contains negative traits. If we focus on the former end, we could pile on a heap of positives. He's friendly and outgoing, dedicated and helpful, humorous and even easygoing. Yet on the negative side, we have gullibility? Raphael's meager intelligence is touted as his Achilles heel, but I would argue that this is evidence of his attributes, not necessarily his personality. Besides, he pushes himself to overcome it, making it naught but another means of showcasing his aforementioned diligence. You might think the solution here is to heap on negative traits to balance the scales. I have an alternate proposal. Instead of conjuring up conflicts, let's exacerbate his strengths until they undermine him, while highlighting the instances of weaknesses that the game continually glosses over. What's Raphael's forte? Kindness. No relationship exemplifies his mercy quite like his interactions with his best friend, Ignatz. Iggy Iggs, riddled with guilt over his family's indirect involvement with the death of Raphael's parents, believes Raphael would hold a grudge against him. However, Raphael continually reinforces that he bears no ill will towards Ignatz, or towards the victors in general. This is almost identical to Caspar and Petra's supports. However, unlike Petra, Raphael never admits to having indulged in anger or grief at any point in time, making this be nothing more than an anticlimactic misunderstanding. But while I believe allowing him to reconcile his emotions with this new information would benefit his character, we don't need to, so long as we let his optimism blind him. If naivety can inhibit Ferdinand's relationship with Lysithea, his ability to govern Hrim, and his discernment of his father's true integrity, or lack thereof, then it ought to shortchange Raphael all the same. Should Raphael ignore reality, it could deprive him of vital information that could have empowered his goals of knighthood or protecting those he cares about. What if overlooking Gloucester's slight endangered Claude? What if his parents were transporting a special piece of merchandise that could turn the tides of the war? What if this wasn't the only merchant-centric attack that nobles have waged and blind ignorance did nothing but allow this cycle to persist? Raphael should forgive. But forgiveness does not exclude accepting reality and fighting against the evil therein. This issue is not exclusive to his interactions with Ignatz, however. In his conversations with Claude, Raphael's insistence on helping people turns out to hinder his aspirations of knighthood. His narrow understanding of virtue limits the impact his inherent goodness can make because he sticks to completing simple, immediate requests rather than broadening his scope to solve larger-reaching problems and leaving the little issues to those without the capacity for greatness. The former is a soldier's mindset. The latter is a knight's. Claude would, and does, know this, yet he gives Raphael a pass because he wants to secure an alliance. And because how could anyone refuse that face? But if Claude really wants the best knight possible, it means risking friction, which challenges his people-pleasing nature, and causing Raphael to see the bigger picture. Teach Raphael to have a newfound understanding of what helping others can look like on an expansive level, and you've got yourself an effective ally. What would keep Raphael from enacting this mindset? His one weakness: intelligence. Developing Raphael does not mean transforming him into a mastermind or training his aptitude. Not everyone needs to be book smart. In fact, if we're highlighting how supposedly positive traits can hinder a character, why not showcase how allegedly negative traits can help them too? All we would need is to construct a scenario in which our resident brainiacs are stuck arguing over the best course of action, while Raphael goes and gets the mission accomplished before they can even decide. Or why not highlight a time when muscles solve problems a strong mind cannot overcome? Demonstrate how the physically inclined and the mentally attuned both need each other, and you'll leave our resident juggernaut sitting pretty. Should one sour note be added to our harmonic helper, let it be birthed from that same place of compassion. Compassion towards whom, you ask? His sister, Maya. Raphael's fervency to earn his sister's affection borders on obsessive. One conversation with Hilda and he's off hunting for a flower in Fodlan's throat. A flower he's never seen, one Hilda's unsure even exists. You know why someone would stretch themselves to such an extent? Yes, out of love, but also out of fear. Fear of losing the only immediate family he has left. Gullible though he be, Raphael is no fool when it comes to family. He understands that children aren't mature enough to reconcile while their parents, let alone their siblings, remain separated from them. Raphael articulates this concern, claiming that Maya won't even recognize him when he returns. What if she hates him? Worse, what if he never returns at all? He's not only scared that his sister could be scarred by him, he's scared that his sister could be orphaned by him. I don't believe we need to amplify Raphael's angst. We need only draw attention to the seed of darkness already sprouting inside him. With his personality repurposed, it's time to move on to his secondary conundrum: a lack of relevance. As writers, we know that if you can remove a character from a story without this drastically affecting its overall flow, you better throw that sucker right on the chopping block. This principle is often overlooked in Fire Emblem history because its permadeath mechanic means almost every unit needs to be disposable, lest the plot be impossible to manage. Thus why the series' side characters do more than impact the story. They expand the world. Lysithea exposes the dangers of magical experimentation. Sylvain displays the divide between brethren with and without crests. Petra stretches the conflict beyond the continental boundaries of Fodlan. But Raphael? Yeah, I've got nothing. His family's mercantile careers and their involvement in the silent war between Counts Regan and Gloucester only shine a flashlight on the already well-illuminated areas of this world. We knew Fodlan had merchants, we knew Gloucester and Regan were at odds. We need something to set Raphael's experiences apart from his peers. In a narrative centered around the crests and their bearers, around the haves and the have-nots, Raphael stands out worse than Big Bird in an office meeting. Raphael has no crest, no faith, no status. He has no stakes in this fight. All he has are actual stakes, and even then, he's always whining that he wants more of them. I'm not saying to make him a noble or a crest bearer, but he does need to demonstrate the reason behind his investment in these battles and the conflicts that created them. You know what's an easy way to give him an involvement with the crests? His Paralogue. It is implied therein that Count Gloucester murdered Raphael's parents because they escorted Duke Regan in a bid to secure a more powerful position in the Alliance's Round Table. Raphael would not know much about crests from an educational standpoint, but he would intrinsically understand how innocents are slain while crest-bearers play their games. This does not need to sour his disposition towards his crest-bearing classmates, but it could allow him to open their eyes and personalize the sacrifices they make on paper. They would never be able to carelessly make a decision again if it meant depriving another Raphael of their parents. But there's an additional layer to this conflict that we could utilize for Raphael's benefit: the relationship between commoners and nobles. It would be easy to write this off as just the rich manipulating the poor, but that would diminish the devotion of the peasantry to their superiors. Raphael's parents were aware of the risk when escorting the Duke, the same as their son is when defending the Duke's grandson. Both protectors understood the necessity of their patron's success, as well as the necessity of their personal involvement in bringing it about. Without commoners, nobles have no protection. Without nobles, commoners have no provision. Each party is dependent upon the other for their mutual prosperity. The identity of either, however, is irrelevant. Whether the Kirstens serve the Regans or the Gonerils, their mission and its aftermath would have remained the same. Raphael needs to be no more devoted to Claude than he is to his own sister. His knighthood unites the two instead of forcing them into the crossfire of one another's problems. Capitalizing on this tension whenever the notion of status arises could present the party with a fresh perspective on class divisions. These minute improvements can make a significant impact on intertwining Raphael with the world of Fodlan. Raphael deserves to stand alongside his classmates in their indisputable glory. A head or so taller for sure, but there ought to be nothing in his head or in his heart that shortchanges this treasure of a man. With his ending surprisingly sound, only one thing has yet to end: this episode. What do you think of the work we've done on this war machine? Whether you prefer the former version or would like to upgrade to the latest model, let me know in the comments below. I'm always interested in discovering new ways to appreciate old characters, or analyze alternate options for improvement. Know any other Fodlan knights in need of refurbishment? Comment your request and I'll try my best to enhance them. Be sure to tune in to the Homestead's Twitch channel every Saturday at 8 p.m. for Straturdays, where we play through our favorite strategy RPG series, Fire Emblem. Until next we meet, may the goddess Sothis protect you.